Ended up being more about coming back from something instead of always everything going right.
Right.
You know? And then people, and I needed to say that to the kids because somebody, if not all of them, heard something not just about a famous person that came from their school that made it big, but that they hit a lot of walls and were knocked down and still came back. That came out naturally, and it wasn't supposed to be about that. It was supposed to be just about, hey, the record,
Right.
and I'm a stuntman, but, you know, we all go through life, and if we can share some things that go wrong in our lives, maybe we can help somebody make it back too, you know. Just like you went through adversity, I went through. If you can share that adversity with others, they'll believe in you more because you actually went through it. You're not just talking about it.
Right.
And they'll, you know.
So I mean, when you're from Jersey, I mean, what exactly? I know you guys played football, right? I mean, you played football. I mean, was it something you've always said, hey, I'm going to move to Hollywood and be this? I mean, what was the thing for you when you grew up? Like, hey, you know, this is what I want to do, or this is my mentor. I mean, did you have a thing, or you always knew what you wanted to do?
I was always throwing myself down the steps and jumping off the roof. I didn't know why. Didn't know what the word stuntman meant. But I surely was that. I was, you know, grabbing my friends and throwing fake punches so people would run thinking we're fighting. I didn't know that I was actually coordinating fights back then.
Right.
And then I noticed that when I told my friend to fake like you hit me with a stick, he actually really hit me. I said, no. Let me be the stick hitter because you're not good at it. So I automatically was coordinating at age 8 and didn't even know it. There was trees in my backyard in the woods where I used to call them the monkey trees. I'd climb them 30 feet and rock them till they crashed to the ground. I'd ride them down into the ground. I was crazy. But I had a method to the madness, you know. I had a knack for hitting and rolling and not getting hurt, and also knowing what's too crazy and what's doable. But when I took all that energy in 8th grade and started going out for sports, I loved track, loved football, loved wrestling. And those were my things I had a great knack for. It was pole vaulting on a track team that ended up sending me out here to Hollywood because I broke the school record my senior year. I did jump 13 feet. The record was 12. They said I couldn't do it. 3 years later, I broke the record. I thought anything could be done. And I remember they interviewed me for the yearbook my senior year, and they said, you know, it was before I broke the record. They said, what's the 2 things you want Sal Plainfield to remember you by? We're going to put in the book. Well, one is I'm breaking the school record. Thank you very much. I was predicting the future like Muhammad Ali. And the other thing is I'm going to Hollywood to be a stuntman. And so years and years later when I made it, someone showed me the yearbook and said I was breaking the school record and I'm going to Hollywood. And it's weird that if you really have some kind of crazy goal in your mind, because it seemed pretty crazy at the time, that you could do it if you really, really want it.
Now, we're backtrack from pole vault. Don't you have to be fairly like
Still
tall?
working on your fries and stuff, bro?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you going good?
Thank you. Pole vault. Don't you have to be tall and
Here, buddy. We're going to just hang and talk for a while.
Okay, man. You guys need
man. Thanks.
You need some more hot water or anything?
I
Coffee?
would have gave more than that, by the way.
You gave more?
Yeah. No, he wouldn't. He's tight.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Pole vault. Don't you have to be like tall, lanky? To go
Yeah, that
pole
was
vaulting?
it. My freshman year, I went out for pole vaulting.
You have to
And
be
I
like
was stocky.
6 something,
I was like
right?
5'8" and 160 and muscular and kind of a halfback, fullback type. And the other coaches that were basketball coaches, I remember them saying, "You'll never break the school record. You'll never jump 12 feet. You got to be 6 foot and slender." And so that was it. I wanted to break the record almost to prove that guy wrong, that coach that knew it all.
Now, where'd you get that
Which
from?
is crazy, you know?
I'm just curious, where did you get that kind of ambition? Did something, you had to learn it from somewhere.
Just the...
Somebody, you had to get it from somewhere. Either some kind of mentor, mom, dad, something
I don't
to
know.
give you that desire.
I think Muhammad Ali, I watched him grow up, and I
Okay,
saw him
so-
in the papers, and they crucified him and said he wasn't allowed to box again because he stood up for his rights. And I was just a little kid, and that kind of shocked me that they wouldn't let this guy box. And then suddenly he came back, and I thought anything is possible. He became the champ of the world again. So he was inspiration, Muhammad Ali. Planted seeds in my head as a kid, and so
That's good.
that to me meant a lot. I remember I didn't understand it. I saw a magazine. On the magazine, it was a picture of him with arrows in him. And I didn't understand. I go, why is this boxing guy got arrows in him? Right. And he was being crucified, and he's not allowed to box no more. That was like one of the stories. And then suddenly he was boxing, and I became a big fan of his. I saw the good in him years before that, because I knew every time he said, I knew he was just having fun. I knew he had a great heart. A lot of people didn't jump on that parade. The older people didn't believe in that. They thought he was crazy, conceited, whatever. But look at him now. He was what I always thought he was, a giver, a kind man, a leader. So I idolized him. I still do. But so maybe that was the seed that planted in me. I remember when I was a little kid, 8 years old, watching James Cagney on black and white TV, and he was beating up people on this movie, and I said, Dad, look at that. And I'm watching it, and my dad says, you sure like James Cagney, don't you? I go, oh yeah, I love him in all his movies. He goes, do you want to be like James Cagney? I said, no, but I sure would like to be those guys that he's beating up. And my dad smiled, because I was doing the fake fights, the falls. And I remember my mom took me in to have my brain tested, because they thought something was wrong with me, because I was throwing myself into walls and down steps. And, but little did she know, was every time I rolled down a step, I'd say $100, $200, $300. So there was some crazy method to shocking them physically. That was my physical acting. Can I trick people while I walk through school, look like I hit my head on the door, where people go, ooh, and I go, eh. And so all that stuff, James Cagney, Muhammad Ali, great parents, sports, breaking a school record in pole vaulting, and then suddenly it seemed possible that this kid from New Jersey could go out to Hollywood with $52, not know anyone, not have a car, and walk on Hollywood and Sunset and find somebody out there that was going to train me and make me a stuntman.
And what year, when was that, when you made that movie?
It was 1974, July, wow. Right after high school.
Wow.
I walked.
It's all by yourself, so you came here.
Yeah, I came out here. I actually, the first 2 weeks, I kept bumping into all the people in my hometown in South Plainfield, New Jersey. And they all knew. I already said I was going to California to be a stuntman. And they were all bumping into me for 2 weeks going, hey, when you leaving? When you leaving? And suddenly it was like, wow, I have to leave. I made a statement like Muhammad Ali. I have to leave now. Maybe I'll just go to the beach down at the shore and just come back and say, oh, yeah, I didn't like it, I'm going to stay. That would have been the easy way out, but I was thick-headed. I thought anything was possible. So I hitchhiked a ride with some other graduates that graduated ahead of me from South Plainfield, and they drove out up through North America to San Francisco with me. And they were going to stay in San Francisco in the middle of July for a few more days, and I said no. I took a bus the rest of the way, dropped me off in Sunset and Vine, or Hollywood and Vine, with 2 suitcases, $52. I walked into a place called Faulkner Studios, and it was an old studio. Mr. Faulkner, he was about 80-something years old, and he had a theater school. I went out there to meet him in this theater school. Ended up being, he took me through the school, and I had my suitcases and just off the bus, and he said, oh, this room is where you learn ballet, and this is tap dancing, and you'll learn the piano. And I was going, oh my gosh, what is this? I'm looking for stunts here. And suddenly he takes me in a room. This is where you're going to learn fencing and foils. Well, that's more like pirates. That sounds pretty cool. And but it was $50 for the outfit, the shoes, $80, $100. And so when I left there, I was glad I was out here, but it was like, this wasn't what I was looking for. But it got me out here. Mr. Faulkner got me out here. I bumped into a stranger. He called the Stuntman Association. He found Paul Stater. And then I joined the Paul Stater Stunt School with a bunch of other great young kids. And a year and a half later, I was running shows at Universal Studios.
Wow. So
it's pretty scary and quick. Mm-hmm. But that's the passion that is driven in most people. I was fortunate not to do drugs when I was a kid or drink. Because I think a lot of that, if I would have done any of that,